Hello there. Welcome. I am Heather Pierce Campbell, the legal website warrior. I'm an attorney and legal coach based here in Seattle, Washington. Welcome to another episode of Guts, Grit, and Great Business. So I'm super excited to have my new friend, Josh Fonger, here today. Welcome, Josh.
Glad to be here, Heather.
Thank you. Well, and for those listening, Josh and I met a few weeks ago. We are in a joint group together, and he was kind enough. I pretty much spammed everybody who welcomed me to the group and said, hey, let's connect. He was kind enough to do that. And Josh is going to be really fun to talk to because the folks that I serve need what you have. So let's introduce Josh. Josh is a business performance architect. I love that title. And the co-founder of Work the System. He is an international business consultant, coach, and speaker. He's had the unique experience of personally helping hundreds of businesses grow simply, and I love that keyword, simply, using the WTS method. His specialty is taking stressed out entrepreneurs from working in their business to working on their business using systems so that profit and freedom become a consistent mechanical reality. Josh is in Phoenix, Arizona. He's a dad. He has been working as a business consultant, coach, and speaker for nearly a decade. So he's got lots of great experience. Josh, welcome. I'm so happy to be connecting with you again.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
It will be fun. So tell me, take us back to the beginning. How did you get started in the consulting world?
It certainly wasn't by choice. Yeah, so my undergraduate degree is in architecture. And I thought I was going to be involved in real estate development, which is what I did after I graduated. And I got my master's in business. And so I wanted to be a developer in commercial real estate in the Phoenix area. And, you know, the crash happened in 2007, 2008. And I was one of the victims of that, got laid off and couldn't find any work unless I wanted to get about a 80, 90% pay cut. Which is a challenge. It's a challenge when you're the breadwinner of the family. So could not find any work, applied everywhere. And the only place that would hire me was as a contractor, being a business consultant, a small business consultant. And so obviously I took it. You know, at that point I had lost the house, lost the car, all savings, all retirement, everything, massive debt. And I was living in my in-laws condo. And so that was, you know, basically anything would be better than that. And that's where we were at, a small family with 2 kids. And so consulting it was. And I had written my business thesis about why you should never hire a consultant, why you don't need a consultant. My dad didn't like consultants. My father-in-law really, really didn't like consultants. And, but you know, when you got to eat, you got to eat. So I feel like that's kind of the God sense of humor of kind of like putting you in a role that you think has no value after you've been kind of beaten to the ground. And but I just fell in love with it. I just been really enjoyed it. That was 2009 when I really got it started. And so I met some amazing people like you. We had a chance to travel the world and really help a lot of companies. So I think it was a great great series of events.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's a couple of things that I love is, I mean, the irony, first of all, of writing your senior thesis or whatever, your senior paper on why you should never hire a consultant.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, and there's a common theme. So I have to say that I don't find it too ironic that every guest that comes on my show talks about what happens stemming out of a really hard place. Right. And how that often leads them to where they are now or their next level of success. And so I, you know, as hard as that was, I love that that was a turning point for you. And here you are, like, clearly on your path doing what you're here to do. So what kinds of businesses and clients do you work with? And I also want to know, who do you enjoy working with most?
Yeah, great question. I like working with people who are action oriented. So we'll start with that. People actually, aren't just playing business, but they actually want to go somewhere. So people with ambition are way more fun to work with. They're serious about their business, not just serious about learning about business. So those are the most fun clients. But as you know, when I met Sam Carpenter, I guess that was about 10 years ago, and we started to work the system together. We really went through this revelation where we started working with really large companies and helping them put their systems in place and building those out. But the majority of people who came to us were small business. but they can never afford any of our fees. And we can never fly out there. And we're just like, well, we'll just work with the big companies. And then we just kept building up more and more materials, more and more trainings, more and more services. And so it's worked, from like, $500 million companies to $100 million companies. And we kind of just worked our way down to what is the companies who need the most help, which are those entrepreneurs who are, wearing all the hats. They're working 80-hour work weeks. They don't see their family. They have health issues. And that's the majority of who we work with now. And I really enjoy that phase, because that is a tough plateau that if you don't break past that plateau, you are going to either suffer for the rest of your life and then go out of business, or you're going to go out of business soon and not suffer too much. But either way, it's going to be a lot of suffering. And that's the plateau that most people get stuck at. And our programs really are helping people get beyond that plateau. And so that's the fun work, is getting people beyond that. And all the big companies, I certify a lot of consultants now. And so I allow them to work closely with larger businesses around the world.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, there's a couple of overlaps even between the work that I do and what you do. So the way that I describe it is the folks that you're talking about who are stuck at this point, they're at this kind of plateau and they need to be able to scale. But a lot of folks are going after the big fish, right? A lot of people want to be working with the big fish. And the same is true in the legal world. A lot of the attorneys and law firms, like, they're going after the big fish in the marketplace. And unfortunately, what it means is the folks that we're talking about here are really mostly left out of the legal marketplace. They're not well served by the traditional legal industry, but they're up to some phenomenal things in business. Like, people are doing really interesting things in this space. And for the folks that do figure it out, I mean, anyways, I love the group of people that you're talking about and that you're committed to supporting on their path. And it seems like right now, more than ever, like, are you busier than a one-legged man in a foot running contest?
Yes, well, we are, and it's by choice, right? We wouldn't have to be, but there is an incredible opportunity to help people who are in the same position today that I was in 12 years ago. And so we're really trying to do is enable and empower people who, like the work we do, but they just lost their job. They just lost their business. They are unemployed now, but they have skills. They have some savings, and they think, I'm ready to do this and, kind of build my own future, build my own career, and help companies probably in the same industry that they came from. And so that has been our big focus, is find those people, supporting them, training them so they can actually go out there and fix companies. Because you mentioned most people are going after the really big companies, but the need is really the smaller companies are the ones who need the most. And so that's what I'm trying to do is enable and empower them right now.
Well, I love that. And I wasn't even in that moment thinking about the folks who do not have jobs and are maybe thinking about transitioning to the consulting world because they've got a set of skills that they developed over here, right? Doing something else, or, working inside of somebody else's business. But even for the folks who are already consulting, but they need improvement with their systems, they need to increase efficiencies, and I can speak from personal experience right now as a mom in the midst of COVID. Like, my schedule is intense, and it's not because I have like expertise in systems. It's because I need probably all the things that you teach, right? And I keep telling myself, like, this is going to be a massive opportunity to up-level my business in multiple ways around systematizing, around creating efficiency. So are you working with folks who are already in the consulting world and are in that place?
Yes. Yeah. So our company is divided. So as in, I work with a lot of companies who are just small business owners trying to get fixed. And then I work with a lot of consultants who are trying to go out there and fix companies. So there's kind of two main divisions of the business. And, our method is the same. Our approach is the same. I mean, there's 4 parts to our method, and it's tried and true. I mean, it's stuff that's been working for hundreds of years. Just Sam Carpenter was able to encapsulate it. He was able to, this book right here, Work the System. It's we're working on the 4th edition right now.
Oh, wow.
It's been around a long time, and we've just, when the book first came out, we weren't really sure, would this work in this industry or that industry? And now that we've had a chance to work with a lot of companies around the world, whether they own a bunch of bowling alleys or they own a hair salon or they have an e-commerce business or they're a coach, they're a consultant. It's the same thing because it just deals with mechanics. And so Sam is an engineering background, my background's in architecture, and we really wanted people to know that there is a clear recipe for success with regards to your systems. And it's like math. If you follow it, it's going to work. And the hardest thing that we have to do is convince people that it's worth the effort, the investment, because they would prefer to chase the shiny object. They would prefer to find, like we talked about before, they want to find the easy path. They want to find the quick hack. They want to find, and we're just like, you have these systems that the money's right there if you're willing to work on them. But they're like, well, maybe if I just do this new thing and then I'll have, success. And it's just life doesn't work that way. So,
well, there's a couple things that I want to dig into that you said. And one, I want you to walk us through what the work the system method is. Like, I want to hear more about that, but also to the point about people in this space chasing the next shiny object or thinking there's some other strategy they need to try that's going to get them there faster, right? And it's not wrong to have those desires of getting there faster, but I feel like you don't get to skip business fundamentals. You don't get to skip really building that underlying structure. And it's the same conversation I have with clients around, like, why do you need legal support? You look at any business out there in the marketplace who is doing things worth knowing about, I can guarantee you they've got legal support in place, right?
Yeah, it really is true. You can't skip the fundamentals. That's why we're meeting later on in a couple of weeks, is that we have all these legal contracts, agreements, and insurance and all those things, but we're going to do a refresher, and we're going to make sure those are all dialed in. Preventing problems is a great way to make your life smooth so you can scale. And most people wait till the fires happen, and they do what we call whack-a-mole. And so they're in this perpetual game of whack-a-mole, and their business only grows as fast as they can put that hammer down. And, maybe that means they get to 500,000 sales, annual sales, or 1 million, but they're not really going to go much farther than that because they just can't whack the moles fast enough. And then eventually they're going to get sick. Their main manager is going to leave. Something's going to happen to one of their partnerships, and it's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and they're just going to go under. And I've seen it so many times, and it's because small business, they don't know, and you can definitely attest to this, they don't know how vulnerable they are. They think they've got a good business, they think everything's smooth, but an outside looking is like, you are like 2 weeks away from going under. You just don't even know it yet. Like, if you lose this one client, you don't even have business. Like, if you get sued in this one way, you don't actually have a business. Like, you're so close to having your company go under. And I've helped a lot of companies through bankruptcy. They just don't know it yet. And we want them to think like a business owner. So all of our products and services, we say, are for mature thinking business owners. I
think I could hire you to do the sales for my business.
Yeah. Once you presented for our group, I was like, okay, everyone needs to work with Heather. I'm working with Heather. It's crazy not to, because
well, I'm just saying we speak the same language. Like you saying, like, treat your business like a business, right? I've had this quote that I've said for years. If you don't treat your business like a business, nobody else will. Not your clients, not the government, not a court system, not the IRS, nobody.
And I think most people, because they were employees and then they become entrepreneurs, they treat themselves like they're employees in their business instead of like a business owner. And that's a big shift. It seems like, oh, I can just do that real quick. But what most people do is they start a business and then they become the hardest working, lowest paid employee per hour employee in their business. And then when I ask them, who's doing the strategic planning, who's, securing capital, who's doing partnerships, who's developing these new products and services, who's researching this, I explain all these things that should be done. And the answer is no one is. Who's doing leadership development, who's doing training, who's doing these things that would grow a business. And they say, well, no one's doing these things. And I go, so this company has no business owner. This is a company without an owner. This is just a bunch of employees and you're one of them. And this is the problem. This is why you've plateaued at this place. And so they really have to shift their mindset about what owning a business is. And they need to understand that the business is not them. The business is made up of these systems that repeatedly produce value in a scalable way. And once they take hold of that, they're not a millionaire the next day. It's then they can get to work on those pieces and build that resilience. They can build that stability, that foundation, like you talked about. And then things just grow and grow and grow. And I let them know that once you do this, because your competitors probably aren't going to do this, they're not going to be able to catch up with you. Like you're going to be at a place that they just can't. They can't do things at your margin. They can't do things at your quality. They can't do things at your speed. They can't do things that you do for your customers. And it's going to put you in a position that just is night and day. And so, but you have to be willing to see the systems and then to invest in them.
It's huge. Well, and I hope people heard what you just said. I wrote it down. What most people do is become the hardest working, lowest paid employee in their business. And for people listening that can relate to that, like that's a punch to the gut.
Yeah, well, I bet there too, right? So I'm not saying that we don't all fall prey to that, but I was definitely in that ship. So not to go too deep into Work the Systems history, but I started off as a employee, a contractor for Sam Carpenter, then an employee, then a part owner, then a majority owner, and then I bought out all the rights to the intellectual property. So I owned the business, right? And then what did I do? Well, I became the hardest working consultant in the business, right? So I was flying to this company, flying to that company. And then I was like, what am I doing here? You know, because I'm making good money as a consultant with good intellectual property, with a good brand. But then so right now, we're actually hiring 3 people this week. I think we have 15 people in our company right now. And so this has all happened in the last 10 months, right? Is now we are building out systems, building out a team to work those systems, and building out a way to then take our method, take our model, take our intellectual property, and license other people in it, so we can have a way bigger impact, and we can really change the world. But also, I am not the guy doing the work; I am the guy overseeing the work, right? And that was a big mental shift. And I don't even know where the genesis of it was, but I was just realizing. So, I built a model that can't scale, and I need to realize that I'm the owner of this business, that I boss him out. Now I'm the owner of this business, not I am the business, because I was the business before.
Right. Well, and I think it gets back to anybody who ever has read Michael Gerber, right? It's the same concept. We all get into business generally as a technician. We want to do a thing that we enjoy doing, or that we're good at, or that we think we can monetize, but we don't get into a business knowing all the other things about how to run the business, how to be the manager, how to be the visionary, like all the parts. And we have to learn that if we're going to stay in business or go anywhere in business.
Totally true. And the if you're really good at doing your craft, whatever that is, and you probably are if you're watching this, the skill sets and the knowledge that you need to run a business are totally different. Right. And you need legal advisors, right? I have financial advisors, I have legal advisors, I have leadership advisors. I'm part of groups that can help me grow and challenge me. I have a sales coach who's advising me on that. So all the things that I know that I'm weak at, but I need to grow at, I'm investing in myself in the business to grow those things. And if you as the leader aren't going to invest in yourself and your company to grow those things, then again, you're just going to stay the best at doing the task that you do, and it's going to really limit your business. And again, you haven't built anything of value that you can sell. You've just really given yourself a job. And some people, they like that. They want to have a job, and they want to have that security of the job. But really, the security is only as good as your health. Because once that falters at all, which it does for everybody at some season, you can go down really fast.
That's right. Well, and the importance of what you're talking about, there's going to be a lot of people listening who this hits home for, and especially now in the midst of COVID and people feeling constrained by a lot of things generally, often including their own schedule. Are you able to walk us through a few steps of the method? Can we dig into that, or is that you have to go get the book to get the goods?
Yeah. Well, the book is free at our website, workthesystem.com, so you can download it, or you can buy it on Amazon or whatever else.
Awesome.
But there's 4 main pillars that we make sure everyone is aware of if they're going to try this on their own, which they can. First thing is the systems mindset. So they need to see their world as separate systems. They need to get above their business, above their life, and look down and see the separate parts, and realize that each one of those parts is happening. They're happening right now. But you, as the leader manager, you want to isolate them, you want to identify them, and you want to make them as good as possible. That usually involves documentation, so you can have quality control, and you can manage people who are doing it. But so the first thing is the mindset. Second thing is the strategic objective. So that's the document, and a lot of folks have a document, mission, vision, their strategic plan, their dream document, their 5-year plan. A lot of companies do this. So our version is called the strategic objective. It's an internal document. It tells you where you're going and how you're going to get there. So we are going to deliver this. We're going to do it for this customer. We're going to do it in this way using these technologies. And it's with this kind of team. And it's just a one-page plan that everybody in your company and all your contractors can read it and say, okay, this is what we're all trying to do. So all of our efforts align to this. It makes you incredibly efficient. It helps you say no to the wrong things. It helps you stop wasting time on vanity projects and ideas that just aren't going to go anywhere, and really simplify growth and scalability. So that's the second piece. Third piece is operating principles. These are the decision-making guidelines for everybody in your team. So if they're going to have to make a decision about sending an email that hasn't been double checked, should they double check it first and send it, or should they just send it fast because speed matters more than double checking? Well, you might have a principle that says, quality is of utmost important. Our reputation is so important. And so we always double check and make sure everything's perfect. Or you might have a principle that says, mistakes happen, we can correct them. Speed is what matters. And we're always first to market. Now, if you have 2 employees working in your business and one holds to one principle, one holds to the other principle, you're going to constantly have friction all day long. And most companies have a lot of friction with every single handoff, every single interaction, every single communication. What we want to do is instead smooth out the way everyone makes decisions to have alignment and consistency. It makes companies incredibly great to work at, but also smooths out and speeds up all the work. So operating principles. The last one is working procedures. Working procedures are probably what we're known for. And that is procedurizing the pieces of your business. So how you make the sales call, how you prepare for a podcast, how you deliver that product, how you do a refund. Every single thing you do is a separate system in your business. And over time, you want to build out the documented processes and procedures and templates of your business so that, and you would call it in our session IP, or build out these different pieces. It's going to make your company incredibly valuable, but it's also going to make your company incredibly profitable and scalable and improve the quality. So we work with companies on writing these and planning these and preparing these so that they can be really out of the day-to-day. Like I was checking something just yesterday, and I've been checking this for the last 3 weeks. It was like our weekly blast that goes out for marketing. And I just said, why am I checking this? And so I wrote a quick list. I said, okay, Jacqueline, here are all the things that I check when I look at this thing. So now write this up. I'm not checking this anymore. Just you all check these things. And they're going to add to that checklist. And that's one less thing. Now that takes me 10 minutes a week. Now it takes me 0 minutes a week, right? So I just bought myself 10 minutes of freedom a week. And it took me about 8 minutes to do. And so it's about constantly seeing the repeatable things in your life, in your business, and realizing those can be mechanized, those can be documented, those can be scaled and delegated. And owners have a very hard time doing that. It's because it's like, well, this only takes 5 minutes and this is only 10 minutes. And, rescheduling my calendar is only 2 minutes here. And then that is your day. Your day is made up of 2 to 5 minute tasks all day long. And, it usually eats most owners alive.
Oh, well, and right now, and so for that, like what you're talking about, what comes to mind is context switching, right? All of these little things that are doop to doop to doop to doop. I mentioned even before we went live, like I'm working really hard on like block scheduling right now, but the context switching for me still can't be avoided because I'm working with 2 small children at home, age 2 and 7, and often just me and them at home because my husband has to go into work, and it's brutal. Like I have to say that one, it feels for me like right now, what it used to take 100% of my effort to get done in a day takes 200% of that effort, right? And it's because of context switching. It's because of all these little things that eat up time that change your focus from moment to moment to moment. And I think as entrepreneurs, and especially for smaller entrepreneurs with small teams, it's really easy to let those things pile up and not maintain the view of like, how many times am I going to have to do this again? And how do I just get it off my plate?
Yeah, we call it automate, delegate, delete. And there are a lot of things that become repeatable in your business that maybe they should never exist in the first place, right? So you just need to like just delete those things. Like we were doing this thing, and I had one client where he was providing this monthly report for all of his clients, and he spent a couple hours every week and gather all, or sorry, it was a weekly report, and he'd gather all this information and give it in a nice dashboard for his clients. And then he said, gosh, this takes a long time. And he was going to systemize it and have someone else in his team do it. But he just emailed his clients and said, do you all like this report? Is it providing value? Or do you mind if I don't send it anymore? And they said, no, you don't need to send it anymore. We don't really look at it. He's like, oh, well, I just saved 2 hours a week, And so there's often a lot of things that we do that we don't even need to do at all anymore. They're just time wasters. We just get in habits. And so we have to be really ruthless about that. And that's the whole point of that strategic objective, is to say, hey, does everything align by this? And if it doesn't, then maybe you can just totally remove that from your business. Yeah.
Well, I love that. The other thing that is really clear, especially with your operating principles, and I'm sure with the working procedures, but particularly what comes to mind with the operating principles is allowing, when you have team, allowing people the flexibility and the ownership over decision making, because they have guidance on how to make decisions the right way. And without those, so my most recent experience in leading a team that's bigger than what I typically do in my own business is I got hired on by a local firm as basically a project manager for 15 people that all make up a project, actually fighting the timeshare industry.
Mm-hmm.
So 15 attorneys, paralegals, and staff on this massive, many millions of dollars project. And I had to step into it midstream and get up to speed, like understanding the database, understanding the workflow, understanding all the personalities. And it was a really, actually very, very fun thing for me to do. It lasted for about a year. It was about 3 days a week, but it ended up being a really successful project. And one of the things that took the most time of anything else to sort out is, how do you keep this team of 15 people going in the same direction and making decisions that are just not irritating the hell out of other people on the team? Right? So it was a really good playground for me to get to apply, because there's really two kinds of books that I read: business and personal development. That's it. Like, you shove a business book in front of me or person, like, I'm all over it. I really don't read anything else. And those are really fun things for me to read. And so getting to experiment with a lot of what you're talking about in the context of somebody else's team was actually a lot of fun and taught me a lot about it. But I think that, people get it wrong all the time. And the amount of friction, like you said, that most teams have friction in that decision-making process and understanding the rules, just slows everything down so much.
Yeah. Friction. There is, no matter the size of the business, there's always hidden money there, and it's always in friction. And it's the loss due to miscommunication, bad communication, not quite understanding what the objective is, doing too much work, doing too little work, and it just has to do with clarity. And so, yeah, that's a big reason for the strategic objective, the operating principles, and the working procedures, is just to provide clarity from a high level, mid-level, and from a ground level, what we expect and what does good look like. Mm-hmm. And it's the fallacy of everybody, but especially the business owner, is that they think people are thinking like them. They think, okay, well, they're going to understand it the way I did. So if I say, hey, can you answer the call and try to make some sales? What does that mean? Are we trying to sell everybody or just the right people?
Well, isn't this the human experience? Like, we all start off, I think, thinking like, oh, they'll understand it. They get, like, I find that this is probably not a conversation just applicable to business, but just how we communicate generally, thinking that we're like-minded.
Totally. Yeah. Miscommunications happen nonstop. And I like to share this story on podcast because it was one of my clients, a real sharp client, a real fun to work with. And I won't share their names, but we were working on their business, and they stage homes for sale, right? So they will do this home staging business. And she takes the call sometimes as the owner. I think they had like 10 people in their company. And sometimes he'll pick up the calls. right? And they were having some conflicts with their sales or whatever. And she said, well, when I get the call, I'm trying to sell everybody. I'm trying to close the sale. I'm trying to get their contact information. I'm trying to get referrals. I'm trying to find out who else they know and, put them in the database and all this stuff. And he's like, well, I got a call. I'm trying to figure out if they're a bad fit because I'm seeing how busy you are. I'm seeing how our team is stressed. I'm seeing how we have a backlog of work. And so I'm trying to figure out ways we should not get them as a client, figure out ways where they're actually not a good fit for us. And so they both are answering the phone with totally different goals, totally different objectives. And they're both doing sales. And she's erring way on the side of selling the wrong people, everyone. And he's erring way far on the side of not really gaining business they could gain. And neither one of them had just defined what does a successful sales call look like? What are we trying to achieve here during this call? And they were butting heads and having conflicts. And, you expand that out amongst employees, but they also don't know what does success look like. And that's average business. That's small business right there.
Oh, I love what you just said. And that example is so clear and such a great example of how that goes wrong. The fascinating thing is right before you, I literally got off a call with a woman who's a sales expert. She totally teaches people just about sales. And the one thing she said about having a team or somebody else do your sales or somebody else inside your own business is you have to map the system. And it gets to what you said. Sales means a lot of different things to a lot of people, and that conversation can probably go sideways, like, 8 ways to Sunday. People are going to handle it differently and mostly wrong. And mapping the system and saying, here's the objectives, here's what a good call looks like. Oh, it just puts myself at ease hearing that. Like, that's what everybody should want, right? Take away the stress from that.
They should want it. It's so I used to do a lot before I met Sam Carpenter. I used to work with a lot of flooring stores, and so I'd fly around for Carpet Ones in Florida Americas and help them with their budgets, with their marketing, with their sales team, sales management, hiring, all this sorts of stuff. And I would sell them packages of things that they need to fix their business. And I'd go through a list like, you need to buy this and this and this and this, all these trains. And one of the things I would always offer them is that you need process improvement. Like, you guys have nothing documented. This is before I met Sam Carpenter. Like, no one knows what their job is. They don't know what a good job looks like. You really need to map out your systems and document them so that people know what to do, how to do it, what success looks like, and they can improve it. And they have these great ideas that I told you, but these ideas are just going to fall by the wayside because they're not getting built into a system. As soon as that person leaves, you lost all of that intellectual capital. And they would always say, no, Josh, we don't need any systems. Everyone knows what to do here. Everyone just kind of knows. We've been doing it long enough. We know we're fine. And I would sell out of 100 sales, I probably sold 2 process improvement plans because no one thinks they need it. They think, well, everyone's been doing this long enough. We all kind of know what to do. We don't need to write these things down. And it's the difference between playing business or, having a professional business. It's the difference between small business and big business. Big business have their systems documented. That's why they're big. Small companies don't, and they wonder why they can never grow. There's a reason why those big companies have those things documented, and it's not just because they like to have bureaucracy. It's because they know it creates safer places to work where you can have people do consistently high quality work, where you can scale and where it's not a nightmare to work there. And a lot of small companies, they just think there's a different way, and their different way requires a Herculean effort, and it also requires everyone to be really amazing. I think this is important that entrepreneurs get, is that if you're an entrepreneur and you've had success over the years, you're probably way better than the average person at your work and at doing work in general. Like, I meet some amazingly talented, smart people that they just know so much about so much. And then they wonder why the company grows. And I say, why it doesn't grow? And I say, it's because the people you're hiring are not like you. They're good people. They're trying their best, but they're just average. Like, they're just average people. Now, of course, you want to hire above average, but that's less and less likely to find. So you have to set up your company so that average people can show up there and they can do good work, the work that's meaningful, and do it consistently. you can't set up your business so that they need to be like this amazing rock star that can just figure everything out without needing instructions and just solve problems on the fly and think ahead without even being told what to do, because those people are almost impossible to find. But if you do find them, you're going to be totally beholden to them. They'll hold you. They're going to hold you hostage. And if they leave, your company's going to fall apart instantly. I've seen it happen all the time. And they're going to be the bottleneck because you can't scale that. You can't scale that kind of situation. So that's the way most companies are set up, is that it's just they've added complexity because they know everything, instead of just simplifying and say, I'm going to hire you, and you're going to do this one thing. Once you master it, you're going to do these two things. And these two things are simple enough where you can master them quickly. And that's a big part of the misaligned structure of small business.
Mm. Well, in that example, I mean, I actually, what I was writing down when you were talking about the difference between big businesses and the small businesses you work with is the small businesses, what I wrote down is they're relying on people a lot more. And then right after that, you said like they're putting a lot of pressure or relying on their people to be amazing. And the number of times I've seen that go sideways, where one person who's key to the infrastructure walks out the door or takes a different job or has a health thing go sideways, suddenly that small business is scrambling in a serious, serious pinch. Whereas if they had a system, they had, something already mapped and they could just plug a new person into the system. But I think you partly answered, because my next question was going to be, where do you find that you have the most resistance from your clients? Is it around this process mapping, this process improvement? Is that the sticking point?
Well, the sticking point is change, because everyone hates change, and they like what they are used to, right? So people are just very comfortable, and for you to have them do work differently, they would have to admit that the way they're doing it now is not good or good enough. And that's it's definitely an ego thing. It's an emotional thing. I really try to remove that and say, this is a tool that's going to empower you to do your best work. It's not the other way around. And so that is always the biggest thing, is the resistance to change and doing something that they feel like it's slowing them down. I try to say that, and I didn't come up with this phrase, and I don't even know who did, but it's slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So you gotta slow down to smooth out your systems, to actually figure out what they are. And once you do, you're going to go very fast. But in the meantime, you have to slow down to actually get these things documented. You got to build your infrastructure. If you want, the scaffolding, you got to build the scaffolding if you're going to build that next story to your business and the next level to your building. And if you don't build the scaffolding, you're just going to stay at that same level. And that is the biggest resistance. The other one is a resistance that people think is going to happen, but it's not the way we do it, is they think once the systems get built, then I won't be able to do things the way I want to. I won't be able to have this kind of ability to think on my feet and be creative and do and kind of think on the fly. And I asked them the question, I said, do you want things to be run? Do you want to do things the best way? Or do you want to do things your way? And I said, they can be the same, but like help us, like we're going to come together and we're going to come up with the best way to do it. And once we document the best way, the question is going to be, would you like to do it the best way? Or would you like to do it your way? And they're like, well, I like to do it the best way. I go, well, we were just documented the best way. So that's great. If you want to do it the best way, we documented the best way. So you're fine. And within the steps of a procedure, especially one that does require some nuance, there's going to be, let's just say it's meeting a new customer. So you shake their hand, say hi, blah, 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 blah. There might be a step number 4 that says, here's a guideline. Like we want you to do this. We want you to achieve that, but do it in the best way that you think fits. So it's not like you're a robot. There's certain steps where there's a whole lot of creativity and pizzazz necessary, but a lot of business is not that way. A lot of business is just, you have to click this box or it won't go. You have to double check this or there's going to be a screw up. You have to do these things in order. And that's a lot of business. And what we want to do, and we tell these creative people, is that we want to remove all the mundane, all the repeatable, all the administrative, all the things that we know are always the same. Get all that figured out so that you really can come to those junctures where personality and charisma matter. and really dedicate your energy towards those areas, because everything else has already been figured out. Like there won't be any more fires in those areas of your business. And so it should enable you to be more creative. And also people, once you have a solid framework to build on, that's when the ideas flow, as we say, hey, now that we figured out the best way to do it, does someone have a better way? And it's like, well, now that we know that this is going to be consistent, yeah, actually it would be good if we did this one thing here. And it would be nice if we sent out this package at week 4. And it would be really great if we included in an audio file or whatever it is. And then they can really take what is 90% good and take it to the 98% because they have the framework to work on. So it's a long answer to your short question, but there's always resistance, and it's because people hate change. But I solve that by letting them be part of the process, and also not cramming it down their throat. It's not like we're going to have 100 procedures that are all going to happen tomorrow. It's, we're going to build this new business culture together, and we're going to start with one procedure next week. Why don't you help us build it? And that is a lot more palatable.
Mm. Well, what I hear you saying in all of this is that people really, especially folks that are what I consider entrepreneurial, they have built something themselves. They're somewhat used to like doing things on the fly, right? And there's a lot of probably personality and ego involved, just because a lot of these businesses are built around the person, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but the theme is that as much as they may resist structure, like structure is the thing that will give them the freedom that they want. And your systems and support is, like you said, it's all about the scaffolding and the structure, which then allows them to even flourish more when they want to personalize that a little bit or apply their strengths on top of that structure.
Yes. And I this is something I'm really noticing with the clients I'm working with now, the ones who actually do this and the ones who don't, is the ones who have the ambitions of helping the most people with their product or service, or really delivering the most value at the highest level to the most people. They're the ones who are willing to invest to make this happen. The ones who they're the craftsmen who just really love to to carve the rocks or to paint the paintings or whatever. They really love that, and they love the feeling that they get from working with the client. They love the feeling of working with their hands and doing that thing. They're probably not going to give that up. And because of that, their company, like if they really love to wash windows, well, they're probably just going to wash the windows. And if that's what you love, then stick in that zone and be comfortable with a business that is only it's going to plateau at this point, and your life is going to be stuck at that point. That's totally fine. But the ones who have the most success with ours are the ones who actually, they want to help the most people, and they know that they are the bottleneck in doing that. Right? Because I love consulting, I love working with clients, I love actually solving those problems. But to solve 1,000% more problems, I can't be the one doing it. I have to be the one coaching, training, teaching people on how to do that. It's the only way I can actually affect a bigger outcome. And so that was a mind shift before it became a business shift.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, so much of this is about mindset first. I mean, really, and especially any area involving change certainly calls on mindset. So a couple things, and I want to make sure that for folks that are listening, because I'm going to pop all of Josh's contact information, his gift for the freebie, which is a copy of the book. That's amazing, into the show notes page. So be sure to visit legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. Anything you want to say, Josh, about the free gift? And then I'm also going to ask you what final thought do you want to leave listeners with?
Well, I would say with the free gift, it's funny because people, when they download the book, they think it's one of those free ebooks, it's not really worthwhile. This is a substantial book. So it's not like one of those quick reads. It actually is substantial. So you can download it and get it, or you can buy it on anywhere where books are sold. But we also give away the audiobook. And I would say anybody who's read the E-Myth before and wants to know, okay, so Michael Gerber explains, this entrepreneurial myth. Anybody who wants to know what the next book you should read, and this is the most often thing people say, is like the work system is the next book you should read after that, because it tells you how to actually do it. Not just that you need to build systems, but it actually tells you how to do it. And so I would say it's worth the read. It's changed a lot of people's lives. So I would recommend that.
Well, and I mean, it's a powerful gift, and I encourage people to go buy it. I'm a real believer that if somebody pays something for something, they're gonna take it more seriously. And I ordered your book actually, so it's I will be reading it next as well. But for people that are going to read it, I'm going to tell you, I only want you to download it if you plan to get on it and read it next. I'm a doer. What final thought would you like to leave people with?
Uh, I think that the final thought would be that there is a way out of your hellish small business. There is really a way out, right? And you don't have to wait until something horrible happens first. And this is, most clients come to us after there has been a horrible health issue, or there's been a death, or there's been someone who's left the business, took all of the IP with them in their brain, or you don't have to wait until those things happen. You can just pick a point in the future, ambition, a high point in the future, and there is a method that's going to take you there. And so I would just say, don't get stuck in this thing like this is just the way it is. I work late nights. I get up early. I miss my kids' sporting events. My wife and I go for a date once every 2 years. Like you don't have to build your life like that. You can be exceptional. You can be the different. You can be the one that you don't have to be a statistic. And I often say that if you're going to be an average business owner, plan on going out of business. If you're going to be above average, plan on going out of business. If you're going to be really exceptional, plan on going out of business, because the stats prove it out. Most everyone who has a business within 10 years, I was like 95% are going to go out of business. So if you would like to be exceptional, you have to do exceptional things. And this is be one of those things. So be that top 5% who actually decides, like you talk about, take the business seriously, and you can really grow something great. And it does give you an amazing ability to impact the world, friends, family, generosity, time. You're just going to have a lot more freedom to do more of what you're meant to do in a bigger way. And without building systems, it's mechanically, mathematically, it's just not going to happen. So that'd be my plea to everybody who's listening or watching this right now.
No, I love that. It's really powerful. I mean, plan to be exceptional if that's where you want to go. And I think a key part of that is also having the humility to understand none of us are born with these skills. None of us have, I mean, and I should say, I guess I can only speak for myself. I wasn't born with the skills of how to do everything in business. That's not typically how it works. And so I think humility really serves people well on this path to say, you know what, I know it can be done well, and I don't have all the answers.
Yes, yeah. And the only way this can work, and I think this is a great way to end, is if the business is not you. If you're the business, then that hurts too much to your ego to get all this help. But if your product service offering that's designed for your ideal client is the business and the systems of business, then you're like, well, gosh, if this is the goal, I'm going to need people to help me with that. I'm going to need people to get resources or whatever it might be, because the goal is to help these people in the best way. Not the goal is for me to help people. It's the goal is for my business to help these people. And that's a different shift. And oftentimes, almost always, the owner has to be the one to get out of the way and get some help.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's the perfect ending point. Well, oh my gosh, Josh, thank you for being here today. I love this conversation. It is so critical to everybody on the entrepreneurial and small business path. So if you're listening, I really hope you will pop in, check out the show notes, find a way to connect with Josh, and at the very least, download the book and do yourself a big favor. Thank you, Josh. I look forward to connecting with you again very soon.
All right. Thanks, Heather.